To ancient Chinese, there are three parallel worlds in the universe: heaven, for gods and goddesses, the living world, for the rest of the living, and the underworld, for the dead. Heaven has 9 tiers. On the 9th or the top tier, known as the 9th heaven, resides Tiangdi, god of heaven. Tiangdi rules the universe. He is boss to the boss of the living world, and he is also boss to the boss of the underworld. The place Tiangdi lives and holds court is called Tiangong, Heavenly Palace. His court officials are about 50-50 split between civil and military ranks, just like in the living world, except that everyone has some unique superpowers. And they can fly. By all accounts, heaven is an amazing place. Things that grow bigger there. Objects that shine brighter there. Red color is redder, and pink pinker. And when you break a rule, the punishment is more severe. Usually you get kicked out of heaven and become a mere mortal, or, worse, some kind of animal. For the most rebellious, the punishment is to banish you to the living world and place a mountain on top of you. So you are under a mountain, or a couple of mountains if one is deemed not enough, until someone saves you, or until the gods in heaven change their minds. So here is heaven in a nutshell: beautiful environs but with rigid ranks, rules, disciplines and punishments, and not a place for humans, alive or dead. That's why I am more interested in the living world and the underworld. Yes, even the underworld. For compared to heaven, the underworld is a more welcoming place if you are a good person. We'll get to that in a moment. Quite a number of gods and goddesses share my sentiment. They ditched heaven for the happier life in the living world, some with each other, some with a human. All were caught, of course, and punished. Even so, humans still wanted to become gods. A few actually succeeded in Chinese mythology and folklores, after jumping through hoops and living mind-numbingly self-disciplined lives. Many more tried, driven by the desire to live forever, and failed, having succumbed to the temptations of fame, fortune, comfort and the joys of the flesh. If the human life appeals to gods, it appeals even more to non-humans, who are lower than humans in the pecking order. To gain the ability to morph into a human, a non-human has to live in perfect harmony with nature for thousands of years. In plain English, it has to live long enough to even have a chance. When they do get the chance, they retain some of the characteristics of their original selves, like gender and personality traits. For example, a 1,000-year-old pine tree would morph into a wise old man, respected and knowledgeable, while a 1,000-year-old peach tree would turn into a pretty young lady, smiling her blushing smile and hoping to catch the eye of a young human scholar. By the way, young scholars are the objects of desire in most of the classic Chinese love stories. In China, the learned are held in high esteem. It has been so ever since the Chinese written language was created. An uneducated warrior is just a brute. An educated warrior is a gentleman and a heartthrob. That's the difference education makes. Now, a 1,000-year-old fox would turn into an enchanting seductress. In various versions of the tale, she would bring a fan to the hardworking scholar on a hot summer night, or a bowl of steaming soup in a cold winter morning, and charm the pants off of the scholar, literally. Soon, the scholar began to wither away. He was saved, of course, because I suspect the storytellers were merely recounting their own fantasies. Fun, yes. Dead and gone to the underworld? Hell no. Even though the underworld is no hell. Well, a part of it is hellish, and that's the underworld prison. While all dead go to the underworld, only bad guys suffer there, and that's only till they redeem themselves. Chinese culture believes in redemption, and in the inherent good of humans, animals, and things. Everyone can change for the better, even a bad spirit, called a demon here in America. So there is no pure evil, period. And there is no Satan. The boss of the underworld does look scary, but he's no devil. He is one of the gods, and reports directly to God of heaven. That tough facade is just for show, for how else can you strike fear into the heart of bad people, and bad souls? To ancient Chinese, humans have souls. One person, one soul. Well, there are other versions. Some say one person, 3 souls or 7 souls. Let's just stick to the basic one person, one soul. When a person dies, the body stays in the living world, buried after the funeral. But the soul does not die. What happens is that 2 arresting officers from the underworld would come for you, the soul, with handcuffs and ropes. They would put handcuffs on you and then connect the rope to the handcuffs and drag you to the underworld. How do they know when you will die? By checking the records. All births and deaths are predestined. And that data is stored in the underworld record room. When your time is up, 2 arresting officers are dispatched to fetch your soul. Once the soul is taken from your body, you die. The 2 arresting officers, one black and one white, are called Wu Chong. Wu Chong means not forever. Wouldn't that tell you something? You don't get to live forever. By the way, they are of black and white in color, not because it is politically correct, but because they are ghosts, not human. To ancient Chinese, Chinese color is human color, and ghosts from the underworld have to be some other color. And black and white, respectively the color of death and the color of mourning, fit the arresting officers perfectly, who take you from the brightness of the living world to the darkness of the underworld. Now back to the story. The 2 you don't get to live forever ghost officers would drag your soul to the underworld. And the road to the underworld is called Huangchuan Road, or Yellow Spring Road. Why Yellow Spring Road? The story goes that, if you dig a well for spring water, the water should be clear. But if you dig the depth of 9 wells, you would have dug all the way to the underworld, and the spring water would be yellow. 9 is the biggest number in the decimal system, and it is often used to mean maximum, like 9th heaven. Yellow spring, or 9th spring, is a euphemism for dying. That's why the road to the underworld is called Yellow Spring Road. It might as well be called Underworld Road. So the 3 of you follow this road for a while, and then come to a gate, a menacing, really scary, dark and imposing gate, the gate of the underworld. It is called Gui Men Guan in Chinese, or literally, Ghost Gate. Once you step into the gate, you are in the underworld. You're gone. Your soul is no longer in the living world. Then the 2 ghost officers would drag you zigzagging through the underworld, and finally, Yao will come to a bridge over a river. The bridge is called Nai He Bridge. I will explain the meaning of the name in a little while. The river under the bridge is called Huangchuan River. Huangchuan means river of forgetting. It is no ordinary river. It's the river that separates the underworld and the living world. Ancient Chinese believed that there is a river between the 2 worlds, and that you have to cross that river to return to the living world. The river is blood red. In the river, many souls are receiving their punishments. They cry, moan, scream, gasp, howl, and wail, and scare to death anyone within earshot, especially those crossing the Nai He Bridge. And every soul has to cross the bridge. The bridge is super narrow and has no guardrail. There is nothing to prevent you from falling off the bridge and into the river below. If you were a bad guy when you were alive, then the staff ghosts, without revealing themselves, would push you, kick you, pinch you, nudge you or trip you until you fall into the blood-red river. And once you're in there, you're gonna suffer, and suffer for a long time. If you were a good person, then the staff ghosts, again, without revealing themselves to you, will escort you through. When you come down the steps on the other side of the bridge, weak-kneed and shaking, thankful that you have made it, you will be welcomed by an old lady, Mong Poa, or Granny Mong. Mong is the last name. She will hand you a bowl of soup, called Mong Poa soup, and you will drink it. As soon as you drink the soup, you will forget all about your previous life. You remember nothing. Then you will go start a new life in the living world. Not as your former self. You will be born a new baby, and you will grow up a new person and you will remember nothing of your old life. To the right of the lucky person stands a giant stone tablet called 3 Lives Stone. It records your past, present, and future life. You won't remember anything, but your data will stay on that piece of rock, forever. And the data companies thought they came up with something original. Behind Mong Poa is a platform mound called Wangxiong Mound. Wangxiong means look toward one's hometown in the distance. If you climb onto that mound, you can see your hometown in the living world, for one last time. So you see, the underworld is really not that bad. Bad people will fall into the river and suffer. To them, it is hellish. To good people, it's just a place for a layover between one life cycle and another. Oh, the Nai He Bridge. There is no English word that is equivalent to the Chinese term Nai He. Nai He means what can you do? There is nothing you can do. You have to cross the bridge. Either you fall off of it, or you get to the other side safe and sound. There is nothing you can do about it. You are being judged. That's why it is called Nai He Bridge. It speaks volumes in Chinese. The English word resignation comes close, but is not quite the same. For it is the acceptance of the sentiment. What can you do? There is nothing you can do, not the sentiment itself. This is the early version of the underworld. As time went by, people began to believe that the dead lived down there, never to return to the living world. Both versions had believers in history. Nowadays, hardly anyone believes either version. The belief that there was life in the underworld after life in the living world is evident in ancient burial customs. When people died, they took a lot of things with them to use in the other world. The rich and powerful, especially the emperors and high-ranking officials, would build extravagant tombs. Called underworld palaces, the burial grounds were palatial in scale, with masterfully designed structures underground and buildings and landscaping above ground. Underground, there were the main chamber, the living space, the gallery, the garden, and the fully stocked kitchen. The most famous tomb might be that of the first emperor of Qin. He took his entire army to the other world in the form of terracotta warriors, real horses and chariots, and real arms and armors. As one of his many monumental achievements, the first emperor of Qin conquered the other 6 states and unified China. So his invincible army of course had to follow him to the underworld. He had to rule that place. Other residents might rebel. He needed his troops. For regular people, the scale was a lot smaller and mostly symbolic. Usually, paper money, meaning paper as money, were burned at the tomb. Burning is a way to send stuff to the dead. Regular remittances of such paper money were made on anniversaries and during Chinese festivals, together with offerings of real food, liquor and fruit. Paper money is a round piece of white paper with some decorative cutouts. Anyone with a pair of scissors can make such money. But heaven knows when, some very entrepreneurial people saw a money-making opportunity. They came up with the Bank of Underworld and began issuing banknotes. The banknotes were block printed in black ink on white paper and could be bought with real money. Touted as the official currency of the underworld, the banknotes quickly caught on. More banks popped up. More banknotes issued. By the time hyperinflation set in, every banker already made a bundle. Ain't bankers smart? For years, China has been begging people not to burn paper anything at cemeteries. Most of the cemeteries are in wooded areas, and each year, people burning paper money causes numerous fires to break out. Still, some prefer the old way. Not because they believe the dead are living in the other world, but because it is tradition, the proper way to remember and respect the dead. To them, a bouquet simply doesn't cut it. And they are mighty thoughtful, sending all kinds of stuff to their deceased loved ones. There are those who burn college graduation caps or PhD certificates with their loved ones' names on, so that their loved ones would have a posthumous degree. And those who burn paper cars and jets so that their loved ones could travel in style in the other world. I understand and can appreciate the sentiment, but the stories crack me up each and every time. Here's a hilarious one a friend related about her cousin. One day, the 20-something girl went with her mother to pay respect to her deceased grandmother. The mother burned some fancy money issued by a major underworld bank and told the girl to say something to Grandma. The girl did. "Grandma, we're sending you some money so you can buy a house," she said. "Don't say that," the mother looked alarmed. "Grandma already has a house. How can Grandma not have a house?" And she scolded the girl till the girl was in tears. "I'm sorry, Grandma," the girl said, sobbing. "I know you already have a house. We're sending you more money so you can buy a big new building."